Any culture worthy of the name loses itself in the universal. Any culture that universalizes itself loses its singularity and fades away. This applies to culture what we have destroyed by assimilating them by force, but also to our own in its claim to the universal. The difference is that the others died of their singularity, which is a noble death, whereas we are dying from the loss of all singularity, from the extermination of all our values, which is a foul death, bad death. We consider that the destination of any single value, moral or philosophical or something like that, is its elevation to the universal without taking account of the mortal danger that is promotional presence. Rather than an elevation, it's a reduction, or shall we say a raising to the 0 degree of value. At the time of the Enlightenment, universalization happens from the top in a process of continuous advancement. Today, it happens at the lowest level and involves a neutralization of values as a result of their proliferation and their indefinite expansion. As so it is for human rights, for example, for democracy, and so on. Their expansion is governed by their lowest common denominator, their maximum entropy, 0 degree of value. In effect, the universal perishes with globalization. When they accomplish themselves, the dynamics of the universal as transcendence, as ideal end, and as utopia also vanish in the same movement. The globalization of exchanges put an end to the universality of values. It is the triumph of single-minded thought, what we in French say la pensée unique, over universal thought. What is globalized is first of all the market, the promiscuity of all exchanges and of all products, the ceaseless flow of money. Culturally speaking, this is the promiscuity of all signs and all values, in other words, pornography. The streaming, the global diffusion of anything and everything across all networks, this is pornography. There is no need for sexual obscenity. This interactive copulation is all it takes. The outcome of this process is that there is no longer any difference between the global and the universal. The universal itself is being globalized. Democracy and human rights circulate in exactly the same way as any global product like oil or capital. What happens with the shift from the universal to the global is at once a homogenization and an infinite fragmenting of a system. The global interconnection of networks is parallel with a dislocation of the fragments that move further and further apart from each other, like fireworks rockets that explodes in 1,000 sparks. What follows after the central is not the local, it is the dislocated. What takes the place of the concentric is not the decentered, but the eccentric. Disintegration of a universal, virtual totalizing of the world, and fragmentation. Globalization is both homogenization and increasing discrimination. Marginalization and exclusion are no accidental consequence. They are an effect of the very logic of globalization. Unlike the universal, globalization disunites existing structures, all the better to assimilate them. Everywhere gaps widen and become irreversible. This is a little like the universe, where galaxies move away from one another at such prodigious speed. You see, I use many metaphors, but no panic. At this point, one might well wonder if the universal would have already succumbed under the weight of its own critical mass, and whether it ever took root anywhere but in official discourse and moral codes. In any event, for us, the mirror of the universal is now shattered. One could even see it as a kind of mirror stage of humankind. But this is perhaps our good luck, because in the fragments of this shattered mirror of the universal, all singularities re-emerge. Those singularities that we believed threatened are surviving. Those we believed has disappeared are coming back to life. And we shall speak further about these singularities. Anyway, Japan once again is a remarkable case in point. Better than any other country, Japan has successfully accomplished its globalization, technical, economic, and financial, without going through the universal, the succession of this historical succession of ideologies, bourgeoisie, and political economics. Notwithstanding what others might say, it has accomplished this without losing anything of its singularity. One could even conjecture that it's precisely because Japan never encumbered itself with the universal that it succeeded so well, technically and globally, by bringing together the singular, that has the power of the ritual, and the global, the power of the virtual. Behind the increasingly fierce resistance to globalization, social and political resistance that can seem like an archaic refusal of modernity at all costs, one cannot but read a reaction against the domination of the universal, a kind of excruciating revisionism that targets the achievements of modernity, the idea of progress and of history, a rejection not only of the famed global technostructure, but of the mindset that seeks to render identical all cultures from every continent under the sign of the universal. This resurgence, or one might say this insurrection of singularity, can take violent, anomalous, irrational forms from the perspective of enlightened thought, ethnic, religious, maybe terroristic to linguistic forms also, but also on an individual level, forms of neurosis and personal disorder. And however, it would be a monumental error, the same error that can be seen in the moralistic orchestration of political correctness that is common to all power structure and the majority of the intellectuals. So to condemn this jerky movement of revolt as populist, archaic, or even terrorist, anything that passes as a mediatic event nowadays does so in conflict against this abstract universality.